everyone, welcome to the Gunter City Council regular meeting, December 19th. We are in the Public Safety Building at 105 North 4th Street. All notices have been properly posted according to Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code. We do have a quorum with Wade and Dave being absent tonight. And we're going to open up with our invocation and pledge allegiance.
I'm going to read a prayer tonight. Something different, a little Christmas season prayer.
Okay.
Bow your heads, please. God, our Creator, we offer this humble prayer during this Christmas season. We come to worship with a song of thanks in our hearts, a song of redemption, a song of our hope and renewal. We pray for joy in our hearts, hope in our God, love to forgive, and peace upon the earth. And we ask for blessings upon all people. May there be bread for the hungry, love for the unlovable, healing for the sick, protection for our children, and wisdom for our youth. We pray for the forgiveness of sinners, the abundant life of Christ, and that you fill our hearts with your love and power. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On our Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right. I don't have anybody signed up for agenda items tonight. We're going to open up with the consent agenda, item number 1.
Are we not doing the workshop first?
Oh, well, we are opening up with our workshops.
Oh, yeah.
There, at one point, I was going to change those, but no, we are doing the workshop first.
Okay.
Because I thought we had to establish and create the board, but we do not.
I think we should do the workshop first.
We are going to. But at the time, in my head, I was thinking we were gonna reverse it because I thought we had to actually create the board, appoint, and then accept it, and then do the workshop.
And I left my copy on the table, so I forgot.
Yeah, so,
Okay, so this workshop is going to be to discuss minimum building standards, substandard structures, and how those issues can be handled here in the city of Gunter. So the governing law with regard to substandard structures, minimum property standards, is found in the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 214, and Chapter 54. The Gunter Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, Article 304, adopts language very similar to 214, as it's required to operate under Chapter 214. And then, of course, the Texas Constitution, which provides that a city cannot take property without just compensation. And that includes even tearing down a substandard structure in some cases. So what is a substandard structure? Well, it is one of the most difficult jobs a city has is to make this determination and to abate substandard nuisance structures. It can be a long and drawn out process. It can be very expensive if you get it wrong and you get actually, a lawsuit filed and a takings claim is upheld by a court. Then you are indeed paying for that structure, even though it is we believed it to be substandard. And as often as not, the people that you're trying to enforce the regulations against are the angriest at you for trying to do something about their property. So a substandard structure is one that is dilapidated, substandard, or unfit for human habitation, and a hazard to public health, safety, and welfare, or is unoccupied and unsecured such that it can be used by vagrants or children, or a secured property that is still a danger to the public. So how can a city deal with substandard structures? Well, it's basically through code enforcement. Demand that the structure be vacated and secured, and dangerous conditions abated. What is abatement of substandard conditions? It's either got to be repaired, removed, or demolished. And each case these are very fact-driven cases. We're not talking about the paint's peeling off the side, you know, that it needs some attention. We're talking about truly dangerous conditions. So the basic process looks like this. First, we start with a notice of, or a violation is observed. We send the owner a notice of violation and give the owner time to cure. So, this is what's wrong with your property. You've got 30 days to get it fixed. Then we go out and we do a compliance inspection after that 30 days expires. If the substandard condition is still there, then we send a notice of non-compliance and set the matter for a hearing before this particular, because I couldn't figure out how to edit that arrow. Says Building Standards Commission, but here in Gunter, it's just the City Council. You do not have to designate yourself as the Building Standards Commission. So after that letter goes out, then there's another compliance verification inspection. If the property is still not in compliance, then you can, at that point, tear down the structure, file lawsuits to enforce, obtain administrative remedies, and so forth. But that's a basic overview of what it looks like. This is a lengthy process. You start with the violation observed, and because we're talking about substandard problems, you can't give less than 30 days for them to come in and start making, and it also depends on what the violation is, but the standard reasonable amount of time for the first notice of violation for a substandard structure is 30 days. Then the notice of non-compliance, and we're setting a hearing. So that notice, well, let me move on through the slides here. I'm getting ahead of myself. So under the local government code, to operate under chapter 214, the city has to establish minimum standards for the continued use and occupancy of all buildings, regardless of the date of their construction. And I've referenced, GCO means Gunter Code of Ordinances. I've referenced where those things are in your Code of Ordinances, and the city has adopted the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. The purpose is to set the threshold. The reason we've got to have these standards is to set the threshold to determine at what point a structure becomes a dangerous structure. Again, the process, we start with notice, then we have a public hearing and a declaration that the building is substandard, order that the owner vacate, repair, remove, or demolish, and then enforcement if the owner fails to follow the order. So after an owner gets a notice of violation, that very first notice, if required repairs have not been commenced within 30 days, or if action has not been completed as required by the notice, then the building official commences the proceeding by asking the city council to hold a hearing. Before we can hold a hearing, the city has got to send notice to anybody who has an interest in that property. That's lien holders, mortgagees, anybody that would have a recorded interest. The statute requires the city to check the property records, the appraisal records, assumed name records, tax records, utility records, Secretary of State records. I threw in Google and social media because it is amazing how many times you will find somebody's obituary. When you've not been able to get notice to them, and you Google their name, and okay, well that's why they're not getting their mail. They're not with us anymore. So throw in a Google search, do a social media search, and see if we can locate people. The public hearing shall be scheduled before the city council, except where the building official has determined that the building is likely to immediately endanger persons or property. In those instances, a city can go in and immediately take the building down without notice if it is an immediate danger. But that is something you do not want to do because you will end up in a lawsuit.
We have one of those.
But,
Just wrapped a fence around it for now.
okay,
So
And-
I
and
guess you're
that's-
saying that would be a better option in this instance, to do that first if you can, instead of going in?
I'm saying do not go in and tear down a structure because it will end up in,
Yeah.
it's a very highly likely it will end up in a lawsuit.
Right.
And then you've got the added expense of fighting that lawsuit, which, you know, if the structure's in that bad a shape, likely you will win it, but then you're still
But
gotta
you
pay
still
the
have to fight
expense
it.
of fighting it. So
So
if
what
you
we
can put a
did,
fence around it and keep it,
okay,
you're better off until you can get the building permit.
okay, that was my question, because that's what we did in order to just kind of preserve everything and not go too far, too fast, and get
Right,
ourselves in trouble.
right.
So, okay,
We have to send the notice of the public hearing. So going back to the original notice of violation, there are statutory requirements for that notice. It has to be in writing, it has to include a description of the property. That means a legal description and the, address of the property. I am not a fan of legal descriptions from the appraisal district, the GCAT. Go
Right.
get a copy of the deed and pull the legal from the deed. GCAT, it's very abbreviated and sometimes not exactly accurate.
okay.
So, get the deed, pull the legal from the deed. The notice also has to include a statement of violations and why the notice is being mailed or being sent. That's every violation you expect to have corrected. If you leave something out of the notice of violation, the owner is not on notice that it has to be corrected, so everything has to be in the notice. An order by the building official to repair or make improvements required to bring the structure into compliance with the code and advise the owner of their appeal right, which is to the city council. Notice that failure to comply with the notice of violation may result in the owner being prosecuted for a municipal court violation and civil penalties, will result in the building official instituting appropriate proceedings in law and equity, which is either a case before the city council or requesting that the case be filed as a Chapter 54 lawsuit in district court. And the notice must be personally delivered or sent by certified mail, return receipt requested. I've added and posted on the property. That is not a statutory requirement, nor is that in your code, but it is just smart. Every entry to the property, every door to the property, post that notice of violation on there. There is one that's in the code, but not the notice of violation, not the initial notice. Okay, also with a notice of violation, we post do not enter, unsafe to occupy. It is a misdemeanor to occupy this building or to remove or deface this notice. So, notice of non-compliance and the public hearing. This is after they failed to comply with the very first notice of violation, so then we're sending that second letter out. That's the notice of non-compliance. It has to be served not less than 10 days nor more than 30 days before the date of the public hearing. Has to be served on the owner, the mortgagee, the lien holder, or any other person with a recorded interest in the property. Has to be served by a police officer, certified mail, or by publication if the owner, mortgagee, and lien holders are unknown. So if we can't find anything, we can't find addresses at all for anybody, then we go to the newspaper. Has to include the date, time, and place of the public hearing, name and address of the property owner, street address, and legal description, and a detailed statement of the condition which renders the structure unsafe. My advice is on your notice of non-compliance that you put all of the stuff that's required and then you attach the initial notice of violation so that you don't have to specifically relist every single violation. you can say that you were notified on this date and that is attached to this letter. Okay, also has to include a statement of the building official's recommendation or recommended action, what the building official intends to say, whether the building official deems that the property could be repaired or must be demolished. A statement that the owner, mortgagee, or lien holder, or any person with a recorded interest in the property has to submit evidence of the scope of work, a timeline for completion, and feasibility of completing the work. A statement that after the public hearing, if the building is found in violation of minimum property standards, the city may order the building vacated, secured, repaired, removed, or demolished within a reasonable time. And a statement that the city will vacate, secure, remove, demolish, and the structure if the action is not taken within the reasonable times prescribed. The city secretary has to file this second notice, this second letter, in the real property records. It's called a Liz Pendens filing. It puts anybody on notice that might, what we see a lot is that the property owner will get this letter and I'm gonna put it up for sale. This isn't gonna be my problem anymore.
Right.
Once the notice of Liz Pendens is in the real property records, number one, it's a violation for the owner to sell the property after they've received notice, and it puts the public on notice that, hey, this structure has problems. So always file those in the real property records. So the public hearing, what you do here. It is a quasi-judicial proceeding. It's part public hearing and part courtroom examination. The city council sets the rules for the hearing. The standard process is to open the public hearing, have the staff presentation, then have the owner or any interested party, this is not just the general public, but an interested party, cross-examine staff, and then they can present their own evidence. Council can ask questions. Once the council has asked all the questions they want to ask, then the public can make public comment. Those are 3-minute public comments. Then the council deliberates, votes, and if there is, well, there will be a finding. The order is signed and notarized, and then within 5 days, 5 days, it's gotta be filed in the public records. So the staff presentation. The first thing staff's gonna do is identify the property location. Discuss any prior enforcement history that's gone on the property. Provide evidence of the notices that were sent out. That includes a copy of the return receipts from the certified letters. Photos, photos, photos. We need to over-document, not under-document. My advice to any city staff taking pictures is from the time you step out of your car, start clicking, and walk me through the house, or walk me through this, whatever the structure is, so that I can tell where things are. When I say I mean you guys,
Right.
can tell where things are based on the pictures. If the previous owner has taken any steps to remediate or abate the problems, reasonable time to remedy, if a remedy is available other than demolition of the structure, and then tell the city council what the staff believes needs to happen with the structure. So your interested parties, of course, your owners, your lien holders, your mortgagees, they have a burden of proof. Their burden of proof is to show the scope of work, the time it will take to reasonably perform that work, which includes detailed plans. If they are asking for more than 90 days to get the work done, which most always they will be, they can't just walk in here and say, okay, yeah, it's in real bad shape, and I plan on hiring a contractor, and I plan on doing this, and I plan on doing that. They have to come to you, and they've already talked to a contractor. They have a scope of work. and they have to show financial feasibility. You know, can they get this done? Public comment, it is what it is. It's limited. It's not evidence before you that would rise to the level of staff presentation or interested party, but neighbors see things. Neighbors have comments. It's not as persuasive evidence as the actual evidence that you receive from the city and parties, but the public has a right to make a comment, and I'll leave it at that.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Does the, code enforcement officer or someone else have the authority to enter a building without the owner to inspect?
Well, it depends on the situation. To go into a structure, they have to have an administrative search warrant, but many inspections can be conducted from public right-of-way,
Okay,
like the burned house, for example. We don't need to go in to see what the problems are.
right.
There are some that we do need to go in, and when that happens, we get an administrative search warrant.
Okay, thanks.
And we also, it's not just the building official. In those instances, we have police that go and fire marshal, and we make sure everybody's safe, and yeah, it's a big deal when we get an
Well,
administrative
I have one
search
of
warrant.
these right next door to me.
So, you know, that may be a case where it would take a lot of planning, not saying we shouldn't do it, just saying we would need to involve more than just a building official. It would need to be the fire marshal and the police force executing that warrant.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll make one more comment here just for what it's worth. If we do we start executing an administrative search warrant and we find things that are criminal, which happens often, everybody backs out. Because an administrative search warrant is not a criminal search warrant. So we walk away from it, we let the police go do what they're gonna do as far as taking care of the criminal issues we've discovered. But that search warrant is not enough to go in and start confiscating things and arresting people. That dangerous structure is the least of our problems at this point. We need to back out and let the police do their part, and then we'll start the process all over. Okay, so what can you do? We've gotten the notices out, we've had the hearing, you've accepted all the evidence. Well, there are about 4 things that can happen. Number 1, you can decide that it is not a dangerous structure and dismiss the case. I've never seen that happen, but it's possible. You can determine that the structure is a dangerous structure and order it to be removed or demolished. You can order that it is a dangerous structure and it needs to be demolished. However, you can also find that good cause exists to grant a reprieve on the demolition and allow the interested party time to obtain permits to complete necessary repairs. That is a common finding, as is the second one, that it's just dangerous and we gotta tear it down.
Right.
The last one is that good cause exists to defer adjudication on the case and give the owner time to continue. This is what you would find if it was a case where the owner has been working on it. Maybe their permits have expired, something's happened that's delayed their progress. That happened a lot during COVID, where, you know, they were trying to get things done, but materials weren't available, workers weren't available, all of those things. Don't see as many good deferrals at this point, but, you know, like I said earlier, each case is very specific, so it would depend on what the building official thinks what their recommendation is, and what evidence you receive from the owner as far as feasibility on getting the repairs done.
And what's the difference between removal and demolition?
Demolition is usually like a permanent structure. Removal might be more like a manufactured home. Or it might be any kind of other structure that would be easier to remove than
Okay,
demolish.
thanks.
So your order has to be mailed by certified mail to the interested parties within 5 days after the hearing, and within 10 days, it has to be filed in the official public records and published in the newspaper. Has to contain the style of the case, the legal description, the findings of fact, and conclusions of law, which includes that notice was properly given, name of the witnesses that appeared, that a hearing was held, that the council has authority to rule, etc. And also include a penalty for non-compliance, which is $1,000 a day per statute. A statement that the city will vacate, secure, remove, or demolish if the owner does not take the ordered action, and a statement that this probably isn't applicable here because I don't think you have any or a whole lot of duplexes, or maybe you do, I don't know, or quads or duplexes. Anything that's fewer than 10 dwelling units, the city can go in and make repairs. It's not, that doesn't happen often. Usually the structure just, it gets torn down. And a statement that permits are required for work ordered by the council. And a statement, which I didn't put on that slide, but a statement that if the owner does not perform the work and the city does it, then the city will file a lien on the property for the costs of that work. So how does the owner appeal the decision of the council? Their first appeal right is from the building official's decision to the city council. Then, after the city council makes its ruling, if they rule against the property owner, the owner has 30 days to appeal the decision to district court. It's a verified petition setting forth the reasons why the decision is illegal in whole or in part. It's called a writ of certiorari, which means that the court is going to, if an appeal is filed, then we submit a record to the court, and that's all the court has. It doesn't take additional testimony. The court can affirm, reverse, or remand. If the court affirms the city's decision, then the city is entitled to receive attorney's fees. Enforcement is not stayed by an appeal. By law, I would say if you get an appeal, don't go tear the house down. I was gonna say something about the record. So on the date we have the hearing, I asked staff to make a copy of the record at that point, because that's the record that goes to the court. Yeah. So after that, things can be added to the file, but they don't go to the court because they weren't before this body. So it's like we kind of take a snapshot in time. This was the record, and then anything we add after that, we add as in a separate part of the file. That we just preserve that record so that we can submit it to a court if we need to.
So Courtney, I'm assuming you would have to have certified minutes of the meeting? Or no, you would have the order, because the order
You
would
have
be
the
signed,
order,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Usually, the hearings are recorded, like we're, I guess, on YouTube now, or
And we
Facebook
always
Live, or
record.
whatever we're on.
Right.
And we would probably go ahead and have that transcribed, for our purposes, just so that, but only if we get an appeal, because that's an expensive process too.
Okay.
So, if the owner does not appeal, then the city secretary through the city attorney is required to file a certified copy of the order with the county clerk. It's like an abstract of judgment. And the commission may by order at a separate administrative hearing, so this is the second one, enforce the $1,000 a day, civil penalty or administrative penalty. So that's the process in 19 slides that takes at least 6 months to get through.
So I have some questions if this is a good time to ask.
Absolutely.
First, because we don't technically have a building official, now we have code enforcement coming on board. If we didn't have code enforcement, does our department, our director of development qualify to be the building official?
No, we'd use, Bureau Veritas.
Bureau Veritas, okay.
yeah.
When code enforcement comes in, we would still use Bureau Veritas?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they have to be certified building official, the code enforcement person doesn't have the certifications of CDO.
Okay, so do we need to update our 2015, if we're on 2015?
You probably, I think all of your codes are 2015, and yeah, they're probably,
Is that-
We just updated them
I
recently.
feel like we
To
just
what?
updated every code
2021.
possible in that long
Okay.
list. I
then
think we've updated.
you may have updated it, I
We
just
did.
pulled
The
what
building
was
code, yes.
online.
We did, right?
Okay,
It
so,
has been codified,
Well, this
yes.
one's different. This was the building property management code. It's a little bit different, so that was included though, I think.
yeah, I'm sure it was, it's not
Okay.
codified yet, so I just went
Right.
with what was
Okay, so I wanted to
codified,
make
so we're
sure-
probably on the 2021 version.
We sent lots of photos in when we did that. So my last question is, in this case, our particular problem right now, our issue is the Stonebridge home. It's been almost a year and we've been trying to work through these processes. So my question is, can we start our process before the fire marshal and the insurance company, all of them complete their investigations? Because I feel like if we would have started this during that process, right, when we were waiting on them to find out what's happening, are you gonna rebuild this, are you gonna, what's going on? Can we do that, or do we have to wait for everybody to complete their investigations before we start?
No, we don't have to wait on
We could've-
anybody to do anything.
Okay,
We're a separate entity. Now, I say that, and then out of the same mouth, I'm gonna say, working with the owner in some situations where they're saying, okay, I need this to stay because they're doing an arson investigation, or they're doing,
right,
so, we have to, each one of these is gonna be fact driven, yeah.
right.
So, where something has burned is going to be different than something that has just been
Right.
allowed to decay,
Dilapidated.
dilapidated, yeah.
So this actually happened, I think, right before you came. We were in that, we were in transition, so, yeah, I mean, in this kind of a situation, I would have preferred to, and, we couldn't at the time, but to go ahead and start moving through the process so that some of that time has passed,
Mhm.
we're ready for the next step when it comes. So that was my question.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I would just tell people, we have substandard buildings that can be commercial too.
Yes,
It's
Right.
not- Or not burned out. We had a house in Winsdale before, that they, for some reason, took out all the above slab plumbing and stuff and was trying to live in it and whatnot. And then it became dilapidated outside as well, and they were never fixing it. So then you got to do a condemnation on it and evict them, shut the water off, but
Right.
it still didn't stop me from wanting to live in there, but.
well, and for a little while, we had up there at 121 in Maine, I guess, the property that 7-Eleven owns, the windows were broken out and
Right.
boarded, and it was, so that's
yeah,
fixing
it
out,
can
but-
be any kind of structure,
Okay,
anything that is dangerous, dilapidated,
Doesn't meet code.
doesn't meet code.
right, okay. Those were my questions.
And that's all I got.
Oh, well, then you were at questions, that was it, okay.
I was at questions, yeah,
Thank you.
you betcha.
What building is that? Is that your
That's my
office?
building.
Is that your building?
It's not dilapidated.
Yes. It's looking bad.
Okay, so, do you guys have any questions?
I did.
Okay, so that's it for the workshop, correct?
That's
If you
correct.
guys don't have any other questions, then we can go ahead and move on into our consent
Close it.
agenda. Let's close the workshop at 6:35. And I'm gonna open up our regular meeting at 6:35. Okay, so agenda agenda item number 1, our consent agenda. There are, 3, sections: approval of minutes from November 10th, special meeting, November 19th, November 21st, and November 21st, regular meeting. The Gunter Police Department's activity report for November, and then the Gunter financial report for November of 2024.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
We have Cindy with a first,
I'll second it.
Alan with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. We'll move on to number 2. We have an update from Adam, our Director of Parks and Public Services. So on the sale of the city property, you've got quite a few.
I've
So I'll
I've
let you
actually
just
more
take
than
over.
what's even, because there's things under those.
Yes. you
All
do.
right. Good evening, council. Last meeting of our year. All right. The first one's a sale of the school property to the city/EDC. So the EDC at their last meeting voted to maintain ownership of the property. So the city will need to work out an agreement with the EDC later for the use of the property. That's something we can deal with later on. Working with Eric, we've been bouncing around between the 3 entities, which is the EDC, the city, the school district, Courtney, and then now Victoria, which is the EDC's attorney.
Right.
And so we worked through all the issues. There's a couple, just to let you know, the school has decided that they are gonna maintain their mineral rights. That'll be something for the EDC as well. Victoria has taken over, and tonight we were going to, and I meant to tell you, Mayor, we were going to talk about authorizing the expenditure of the funds, but Courtney wants to do the process and the actual with a resolution. So you won't do it tonight.
Victoria.
What did I say?
Courtney.
You say Courtney?
It's okay,
Yeah.
we're interjecting.
Yeah, there you go, sorry. Victoria wants to do it with a resolution, so that'll move to the January meeting, the January 16th.
Okay, so we won't need to.
You won't need to do that tonight.
So we were just, okay, so my question then for Courtney is that, couldn't we still do this tonight? It's, because we're really just, kind of putting our blessing on it? Are you saying Victoria wants to create a resolution for us?
She sent it to me today. I've got the
Oh, okay.
resolution.
Okay.
So it's
we
a
can do it that way.
resolution for council to basically, so if she wants to do it by resolution, so you would wait, since I couldn't do.
I'm okay with that as long as the timeline for the sale,
The school district's fine.
they're okay.
They're fine with it, they don't wanna do anything until after the holidays, so
Okay.
I think timeline, we're fine.
So it works out, okay, okay.
TDA Community Block Grant, I just received our preliminary scoring today. We are 5th in our region out of 12. That doesn't mean anything yet because there's so many people that applied for that grant, but out of our TCOG region, we're 5th. I can't remember who's ahead of us, it's Tioga, Gainesville, someplace called Oak something. Anyway, unfortunately, out of all 12 applicants from our district who did apply for this grant, we have the highest median income. That won't work toward our favor later, I'm telling you now, that won't work toward our favor. Our median income was 106,000, and the nearest one, I believe, was Van Alstine, and they came in at like 74.
Yeah.
So, but they were below us. So just to let you know, that's where we stand. That doesn't mean it's settled yet, because like I said, there's a bit to do, but yeah, I did receive that today. Street project, we did receive 3 bids for the Woods driveway transitions. We opened them today. The low bid is $98,610. We'll be bringing that back to council for award on the 16th. If it is awarded, if y'all do award it, we'll work out the timeline with the contractor. I have 4 no truck signs currently, and I have 4 more coming. We do have a little ordinance to clean up there to
Okay.
make those effective. The signs can go up first, that's not a problem.
Right.
But there will need to be a little ordinance cleanup on that one.
So you don't know what that means? We've talked about that in the past, yeah. I know that Dave really wanted
Yes.
that
Oh, yeah.
done like yesterday, so that's,
Yeah, so we can
The
have
truck
them up,
routes.
we should be, just right after New Year, we should be able to get them up.
Yeah, good.
We get the ordinances on the agenda in time for that also?
Well,
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We could put the
I'll
signs
have the
up.
signs up, but
But the
from the
T-
enforcement standpoint,
We gotta
there's
do
a
that in
little
January.
ordinance cleanup that
Yeah.
needs to occur.
So we'll do that in January.
But I feel like this way, it sort of serves as notice.
It does, yeah.
It's like a warning.
Here we come.
Yeah, And I'll coordinate with the police too, we'll coordinate, with Courtney. The street budget amendment, I have a amendment I'll be working on with the mayor to come forward probably early February, and that's potentially gotten some personnel in it. A couple things that are those one-time funds. In other words, what I didn't lay out is like just this 98,610. Without that, I don't know that we have an operating budget. So there is an amendment, but we've talked about it before, that will be coming in February. We'll lay that out for council. Looking forward to working with William, Councilman Stevens, and establishing identical agreements with Grayson County for all the precincts. Hopefully they look the same between 1 and 3 for us, and getting those operational. We really need them operational in February before the spring rains. Still under streets, Jeannie Anderson has provided me a template sometimes back to implement a road impact fee. I'll be moving forward with our city engineer to start those. Your P&Z will function as your capital improvement advisory committee, which it's already done. You had meetings in 2018 and 2021. So they'll function as that. There's an ETJ member on that capital improvement committee. We'll make sure that everything is squared away, and then we'll move forward on that. Just to let everybody know though, sometimes there's a little misconception there. Those impact fees for roads, those are for anybody that wants to put in a new road, be it a developer or something like that. It wouldn't really, unless I'm wrong, Courtney, tell me if I'm wrong, for areas like PIDs, that would not work because they're already getting funded back. So it would be developers other than PID developments. But that is something we can put in place. We also will have to work with the engineers play a large part of this. You'll have to have a CIP program in place. Okay, so but that's something we need to do anyway. So that's something big, that's a big to-doer for us. I think Eric would agree with that.
Well, and it bodes well that we just adopted the 2024 master thoroughfare plan, so there are also collector streets that this can apply to that don't show up on the thoroughfare master plan.
And then still Eric's thunder, he wasn't gonna do it, but I mean, I'll do it. So Eric has set up a meeting in January, I believe it's the 16th, with the mayor, with TxDOT. So we'll be talking about, potential signalization issues on 121, or looking for anything. We'll be helping the school district too, because the school district is also looking for potential school zone authorization off 121. So we'll be looking for that. We'll be looking for reduction of speed limits along Preston 121. And this is definitely a process. We heard different things today. And of course, our big concern is widening of the intersection at Preston and 121. Clay Barnett was over today, which was a great meeting, and he's from the MPO. It's an acronym. You're okay with that, right, William? Okay.
Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay, I'm just messing. He gave us some good steps, told us the people we'd probably be dealing with, because it's 2 different issues. If it's construction, it's gonna be 1 person. If it's things like reduction of speed limits, it's another. But he also mentioned something tonight that we hadn't heard before, which was on their radar potentially is a Grayson County bond issue for roads that's just something he said. That's not a secret. That would be wonderful in my opinion. I'll just throw that
Well,
out
it
there.
would be wonderful because he was telling us that they're already spent out,
Yes,
clear into like 10 years from now in other cities, so we wouldn't be able to
we are.
unless we went and bumped elbows with someone talking about
Yeah,
it, their funds.
So their money is allocated out way in the future. In fact, the joke was, Eric will put on his grave what projects he had done, because they're so far out, and that's where he said the bond issue, if there was a bond issuance though, that would be something that would greatly benefit Gunter. That's just.
Quick question, I don't wanna go too deep into it, because then we would go off topic, but we can establish and authorize PIDs. Doesn't have to be like a residential development community. Can we not work with someone in that sense? Is that something we can talk about for an area with then you'd have to, find, just determine a boundary, but can we not do that
You mean like the
with the
intersection?
city? I mean, with the county? You can join together on PID districts, improvement districts. districts.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Let's,
something Courtney's gonna need to think about.
All right.
Yeah.
There we
And
go.
I'm not exactly,
you can tell the eyes were.
I know, and I'm going through it in my head because those PID bonds have to be paid back, but my question is, if they're considering bonds, could we not possibly do it this way where the two of us control it very tightly and do it maybe more efficiently, is where I'm going with that. So, let's talk about that later. I'm sorry to
I'm
interrupt
sure
you.
that there's all mayors that could all talk in Grayson County. There'll probably be
And
Yeah.
I'm working on trying to get us
Yeah.
all together now. I just don't have time.
On the park side, I did purchase the portable backstop that council approved a while back. I've just been sort of holding off till the association said they wanted it. It'll be arriving January 8th. I did give an estimate to the EDC for a replacement sign at the park. That's to replace that sign. It's $4,000. Just,
The
I
city
told to the
sign?
mayor. That is the city of Gunter sign. To replace the
It's not
panels, it's $4,000.
Yeah.
Um,
Take
That
it
makes me
down
wanna throw
before
up.
the new sign goes up, like tomorrow.
And that's just to put up new panels, exactly what's there, but it says City of Gunter with the,
We're not talking complete foundation. and
I'm not talking
base
foundation, I'm talking
I know.
replacement of the
Which
panels.
may or may not-
Structurally, it doesn't help that sign out at all.
Replacement
It
of the
still
plastic
sounds
panels.
Yeah,
insane to
$4,000.
me to do that.
The ones that-
To me,
The
one of
list
those
is
is an
illuminated.
option.
You mean the part that says City of
The part that's illuminated
Yeah,
now,
that
The
white-
panels,
Yeah.
yeah, on
white
both
plastic
sides.
panels.
The message part.
yes, just wanna throw that out there.
I'll look
Um,
at it if I may.
$4,000 to me,
Well,
that just
I'll look
sounds
at it.
wrong.
That's a lot.
Let's go look at it.
Placing
Alan?
glass is not a big deal.
And make it look the same as it does already.
You know, I'll let you in charge of the
That looks
graphics.
terrible.
You just gotta get.
It
the
looks
facts.
terrible, it's embarrassing, I agree, but $4,000 just seems like a lot.
The EDC is just
Hold on,
replacing,
Don, this isn't your
Yeah.
meeting, hold on a minute.
Okay, that was just something I did, so, just cause I wanted to get a ballpark, obviously, I'm not thrilled with the structural integrity of that sign to begin with,
Right.
so, but seeing as it was being talked about.
Termites holding hands.
Park board volunteers and I did the Christmas light judging. We awarded, first, second, third place. They were in the bridges. We sort of suspected the bridges might win. But we did create a small community award. The Woods got that. We did a street award that was the bridges, and we did a business, which was the little pink and white Martina kitchen.
Oh, the truck, food
The
truck?
mobile.
Yeah,
the
they
food
liked her
truck?
best of all, so there's a sign in front of her place, and we're hoping next year to actually break the town into maybe some smaller geographic regions, such as a downtown award and whatever, to sort of a little equity across the board, and cause it's just to promote a good feeling for the residents.
So did you actually take pictures this time so we can put them on the Facebook
I,
page?
pictures don't work, no, but I have pictures of the awards, yes.
We
Yeah.
just terminated.
The
it from
nighttime, it's hard to, it's
Yeah.
really hard to get.
It doesn't look as
Doesn't
good
come
as,
out.
yeah,
Not if you had an iPhone 18.
yeah, okay.
But someone's very competitive, because you said that the person who came in second for Halloween
They came in first for
really ramped up
Christmas.
and came in first. Who was that?
The Tromblies,
posted.
it's on, the Trombley family
On Shaker
on
Hills?
Shaker Hills.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
check
happy
it
to
out.
See it now. I think that's cool.
Built one behind me,
Um,
the giant stuff.
Probably because you're back
They're,
there.
they're enormous, those
Yeah.
things.
and then, I have a meeting with 2 different lighting companies to obtain some quotes for adding some, decorations to the park for next year, and also some
Okay.
electrical infrastructure. We'll see if that works budget-wise. And then lastly, between last meetings, we did pour and spread one more truckload of decomposed granite in the parking lot at the park. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Don, would you like to come up to the podium and speak?
Well, we have to be
It is an
careful 'cause-
agenda item.
Well, we're talking about parks and the signs aren't technically parks, so if we go off on the signage that we're working on with EDC, I don't know that it's really
Oh,
parks.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, is it about?
It
Okay,
has to, yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna give you an update of what we were looking at doing.
okay, so yeah, that would be off topic.
That's
then.
off topic.
Yeah,
Next agenda, you can add the department updates in EDC is a department, you can just add them in for updates.
At the next meeting.
I could at the next meeting. That's a great idea. Okay. And that way, honestly, even if any other board or commission needed
Just
to
as
come
an
in and
update.
update.
And if you want, you can just put it as planning development, economic development
I'm not
director's
brilliant, I
report,
stole that from Al.
and then I'll be
No, I think that's a great idea.
That's what I use is,
I can
so
include some-
I can catch a lot of stuff under it.
I like that. No, let's do
I
that.
can do some development updates that I'm covering tonight, mixing it in,
I do
but I can do a
so-
developer update and then bring
I'm
EDC
shameless.
up on it too.
You guys leave me
But we
any good
don't-
ideas laying around, I'm gonna take them.
Except that I don't have you for updates today.
Not today, you don't, but I'm saying the next meeting.
In the next one, okay, so
You
we're
got a
gonna
bunch.
add that though, that way if we don't have anything,
Maybe every
that's cool,
second meeting.
but if we do, I want that to be. Now, I do have something, because Jeannie, you asked me at the last meeting, I don't have that printed out with me, cause I have a different bag here. Do you want to step up and speak to what you would ask, cause that's within this section? What you mentioned to me last meeting,
That's a yes or no?
it's on topic with this area, so I just don't have the sheet of paper that she gave me.
Short stuff. Thank you. Yes, this here,
Name, please.
my name's Jeannie Anderson, I live at 102 Falls Creek. I've been here 16 years. This here is about this amazing man to my left. I want to tell you, thank you.
That's
That's
you, Adam.
the two.
That's
I know
you,
you're
Adam.
not expecting that,
Don's on the right.
but
That's right.
Don and I, every year, have decorated our house to the hilt. And we have invested a lot of money in it. This year, due to our young age, we're still only, 29 counting. So what we did is that we donated all of our decorations to the city. And Adam took it on himself to help us get them installed. They are there, there's a few fallacies which he's going to correct, which is no problem. But my main
You
thing.
get a 99 out of 100.
My main thing, you didn't start the way you thought, did it?
Right.
Positive, here we go.
But my main thing is that we found out to our amazement that Adam has been an employee here for quite a while now. He has no employees himself.
He's a one-man
So,
show.
he is a one-man, yes, he is a one-man do-it-all.
Yep.
And he has taken on not only the park, but the streets, as we know.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is somewhere in our budget, we see about getting him at least 2 employees, 1 full-time, 2 if possible, but at least 1 full-time and 1 part-time, but 2 for sure, to give him some help, because we had to have 2 people from the fire department to come help us put up the decorations. So my comment to the city council is, please take that into consideration. I know you can do an amendment to budgets. I've done it myself, so I know you can do it. So my thanks is to Adam.
Thank you, Jeannie. All right, item number 3, Mayor Alderman report, which will become a boards and commissions report as well. This is just general notifications, announcements, and updates, and just stuff that's not really decision-making on city business, but updates. The one thing I do have tonight is, I don't know, how many of the people know this, but William Stevens, our Mayor Pro Tem, is no longer with Munson & Munson, correct?
I'll get with them till the end of the year.
Till the end of the year, but I would like for you to tell us about your new position.
Okay. So, on November 22nd, I swore in as Assistant District Attorney, posted as County Attorney for advising to the Commissioners Court.
Pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so that's all the updates I have. Do you guys have anything that? This would also be a good time to, if we know of things coming up in the community that maybe everybody not on Facebook anymore, hardly ever, so I don't see a lot of things. I miss things like the fire department's Christmas party There's just so many
Gunter
kids that didn't know in advance, so if
Gunter
there's,
one state,
what?
Gunter one state.
28-0.
28-0, okay, it was 21-0 a couple hours ago, that's great, yay. Again, now it's just expected. It's pretty
All
cool.
In a
that new
row.
merch, all that new merch with the
We're
North
gonna
Star on it.
I
get bigger,
know.
it's gonna move us up
I
in
know,
division, and it'll be-
everybody's gonna wanna be here. We're gonna have to develop more homes, will you?
A lot of 1 acre lots.
I mean,
Straight streets, straight streets, pack them in.
back them in. Okay, so we're
40-foot
gonna,
wide lots. Density.
we're gonna move on to, a presentation before we open up our public hearing. Yeah, I mean, are you presenting on this one before we open up?
The case, yeah. Do you wanna read the item or you want me to?
Well, I don't wanna open up the public hearing yet, but
Okay.
this is on the plan development, rezoning from single family, yes,
Yeah.
single family to, I'll let you go ahead and
Yeah,
present that.
So this is a zoning change, right now it's a, we all saw a plat, a final plat on this maybe a month or two ago. This is the development plans of the PD, the plan development for it, well, the location again is off of Preston. 7th Street ties into it, and then College is right there, so it's located on the location map. Here's the current zoning, on the left, so you can see most of the single family residential front portion of it. That isn't part of this is zone C1 right now. To the south is 2-family or duplex. To the north is SF1, and to the west is SF1 as well. There'll be a little bit of remainder SF1, but as we looked at them, when they came in, they did do a replat, so you can see the lot line in the middle, but the subject tract of the plan development is everything that you see outlined in red. I like to put an arrow on there just so you can kind of in context, see more realistically what's on the ground right now. This is the site plan for the plan development. You see the residential to the north, there's a 20-foot drainage easement buffer behind those single-family residentials on the north. There will be an access drive to, joint access drive to Preston throughout the site along the southern border. As you can see on the left side in the blue-gray type area, this is self-storage, climate-controlled, multi-story, 3-story structure, and then along the perimeter is single-story, non-climate controlled self-storage unit, and then on the lot to the east, they're proposing to do office neighborhood services.
In the back?
In the front, Preston Road's to the right. So it kind of acts as kind of you'll have C1, still the Thor overlay district along the front, that's not their property, and then the office complex, then the self-storage. So you see the smaller darker gray kind of shadowed one square on the lower left there, that's the multi-story climate controlled, approximately 49,000 square feet at this point. Then to the north, in a little lighter blue that doesn't show a building outline is for future expansion of the climate controlled, multi-story climate controlled structure.
Is this on the east side or the west side?
It's on the west side of Preston. To the north is Autry. So what I've done here, just so y'all know, is overlaid a Texas Capital Bank. You've probably seen their sign out there on that property. We're going through the site development planning process with them right now. They want to do, I'm just putting it in their context, I'm not really gonna talk about it, but just so you know that development's going in, and they'll start construction about the same time or before if these folks get their zoning started. Right now, what they're going to do is just the self-storage. The office complex you see as a concept right now is just a concept. So part of the zoning ordinance exhibits will include this one. What you see in kind of the mustard yellow is a fire lane that will go in right now, because they have to have 2 points of access. So they'll connect to 6th Street, tie into 7th when it extends, and we're working with a duplex developer right now to develop the rest of those lots with duplexes, and he'll extend and put in 7th Street, so they know to tie into that. But all this will stay open. The self-storage is gated as you turn to go north. That's where the gated is, so the access will be completely open, clear to 6th Street to Preston along that southern property line, connecting both those lots to Preston and then over to the single family. And then the pink or whatever, that's future fire lane for when that development comes in. And I should mention the applicants are here tonight, they'll speak a little bit to you, just so you can get to know who they are, and their consulting and their team. This is the landscape plan. I show this because I want you to see how much buffering there is. Right now, our code of ordinances requires, a multi-story building in non-residential to be, 50 feet from residentially zoned property. This structure is 85 feet away, from the west, and then on the north, it is, 56 feet with the future phase. Right now, it's 146 feet away from it, but also they've increased the landscape buffer yards along it and done extensive tree and landscaping along the buffer from the landscape. So not only is the building setback greater than what the zoning ordinance would require for something like this, they've increased the landscape setback and buffer yard as well. Along the buffer yard, anywhere where there isn't the smaller single-story self-storage will be a masonry screening fence in between. So that's a complete, doesn't make much sense to put a screening fence on the perimeter and then have landscaping behind it, and then have a building wall that can function as the screening, or as the screening wall. So all the buffering will be outside, they'll have ability to access it and do maintenance and stuff, but it does, and there's also in the upper left-hand corner, there'll be on-site detention. That will have some landscaping around it as well, so that increases the buffer even more up there.
Eric, is there, on the west side of it, is that, residential?
It is, there's single family, there's nothing built there really right now, but it will remain about 1 or 2 lots maybe of smaller quarter acre or less properties if they develop it. So if I go back to, see if I zoom down, you kind of see that vacant tract that's right there on the left side or the west, that is still remaining single family. But we were looking at this, and if you include just the portion that goes on the self-storage or single family, the rest of it transitions to C1, this kind of acts as a transitional land use to that zoning, the residential behind there, and no one was really gonna come in and be able to adequately subdivide that without doing a lot smaller lots anyway. So this type of land use is kind of, lower impact than going commercial all the way back, but it is too deep to do typical C1 strip center type stuff. So we're trying to kind of avoid, I guess, overall, but it's not wide enough to really turn it into more mixed use than what it is. But we believe, in the future, with the office and the neighborhood services there, kind of adds a different opportunity in this area. And of course, again, like I said, the bank is getting ready to go in to the north, at least a temporary facility for now, and then they'll build the primary final structure within about a year. We're still working through those issues with them to do the best we can to make sure that it turns permanent as soon as possible. This is the conceptual elevation, and while I say 3 stories, I know that kind of sometimes might freak people out, but it is only 35 feet tall, so we did a site analysis there because self-storage base plates on a structure like this are different than a typical commercial. So 3 stories ends up being shorter than what a typical 3-story would in a multifamily or a typical commercial. We talked to them about doing, so this is just a concept, but they're being tied down by ordinance to have different architectural features and have at least 10% masonry and the architectural elements of the awnings and the window flashings and those types of things. Now those aren't true windows that you see out. There's actually a parapet or a fake wall behind it. So it's just for aesthetics looking, so they're not looking over the residential anyway, because that's facing towards Preston.
Right.
There are no windows facing any of the residential around the north, south of the west. And you can kind of see the elevation of this structure compared to a typical 2-story single family if one ends up going behind there. This is the kind of a concept elevation of what the offices could look like. The ordinance kind of allows the flexibility so when they come in, but it does tie down a certain amount of percentages of masonry because as you're all aware, if they came in with straight zoning, we can't control the masonry content. But when we're doing a plan development, we start to look at it a little bit closer and they agree to do it. So with that, the applicant is here if you have any questions, or I'd actually like her to just come up and just kind of introduce herself because, really
Did you
good
say
work with
35
us.
feet?
35 foot tall.
35, so some of the homes in the bridges are that tall.
Yeah, typical residential structure is 35 foot tall.
Is that tall?
The only reason the structure looks a little bit taller is because the top portion of that top line across there is actually a parapet wall. The ceiling height is at 35 feet, and then there's a 6 foot parapet wall to hide the HVAC units and those sorts of things that were required by code to be screened.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Doobie, and, I actually right now own and operate, family operated, self-storage in Elgin, which is a small town outside of Boston. And, my son and I were talking about this morning, he said, well, maybe I can consider myself a local in Gunter, cause I've lived here half my life. We figured out he's been here 23 years, so he will be the one really running the facility, but, it will be in our family business. We've been talking about doing storage in Gunter for a long time. My grandson has really been the one pushing us to do this. Because we like Gunter and we like dealing in small towns and so we stay away from the big guys. I don't know if y'all have any questions for me?
Need some storage.
Good, I'm glad to hear that.
What? What?
Our other future land use is passing by right now.
Yes,
That's right.
This goes together too.
Well, we're very happy to bring climate control facility, because that's, that's what people really want nowadays. But everybody, you have to serve all types of people, so, and all types of businesses. A lot of businesses use the drive-up storages. And so, this way we can offer both.
Well, thank you. So, I'm gonna go ahead and then open up the public hearing for comments at 7:07. Is there anybody who wanted to comment? Okay, so seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing at 7:07. We're gonna move on to item number 6 to, number 5, discuss and act upon the ordinance to rezone this property from single family to PD.
So I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve it.
Questions, Woody?
I'm just curious, I should have asked earlier when you were up at the podium, but did you do any kind of study to find out how many people would be interested in having a storage facility here?
Yes and no. We look at what is going on around us and how the community is. My town, Elgin, has done the same thing that Gunter's doing, is that you're so far out right now from the growth, but you see it coming, and slowly it's going to come. And so we felt like moving forward now, because it will probably take us 2 years to get it completed. I mean, it's.
Probably by then it'll be too small.
It may be, and so that's kind of what we were looking ahead.
Great, thank you. So, I'll second Alan's motion.
Okay, Alan with the first, William with the second, and all in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. We'll move on to number 6. Discuss consider act upon amending and plat of Price Estates. Can you explain this one, Eric? I'm
Yeah.
assuming P and Z already saw this
They did, and also P and Z recommended by unanimous approval the
on this
PD
one.
before you, and then on this one it's ministerial, so they approved it, but.
Okay.
The purpose, this one is located up on McConnell, it's in the, J.C. Maples, it's actually a little bit into the ETJ. There's an overhead area where it's located. When they originally came in, this is the overall plat, but I'm gonna zoom in a little bit on it so you can see what we're talking about a little bit. So originally, when it was platted, the property to the north isn't platted yet. The property to the south, this was platted with a few lots to the south. The original lot line was that lavender purple line that you see up there. Why they did it that way, I don't know. I mean, it needs the orders whatever, but when the person that owns the property came in, saw it, they wanted to put in a fence and realized how wonky it was, and just wanted to make the correction or amend the plat in order to do it. And so they'll be taking that lavender line in, and they did a little bit of a property swap, I suppose, with the property to the north that's not platted, and make the property line straight across.
So is this a flag lot?
No, it's not a flag lot, because they're dedicating that right of way right there.
Okay.
So it ends up being right of way. That's another thing that kind of benefited going and doing the mini plat when they first came in. It was kind of a flag lot, but then I said, you gotta dedicate the right of way across this whole plat if that lot line moves. So they had to dedicate, not a significant amount, but a little bit of,
0.015 acres,
yeah, it's like less than an acre, but
28 feet.
so that's all I have on that one.
What did you say, 28? I looked 55. What'd you say?
That 55 is the other direction.
It's just that little rectangle there to the right, so it's like, what is it, 0.015 acres?
Yeah.
Being dedicated.
I make a motion that we accept the amended plat, that we accept the amended plat,
Approved.
Approve it.
approve it.
Okay, Cindy with the first.
Nobody?
Cindy with the
I'll
first.
second it.
Alan with the second, all in favor?
Amy Allen and Ollie.
Williams, damn it.
All right,
William.
that's unanimous.
No, I had a question in my mind. I wanted to know, go back 2 slides. One slide. Why does that have to be purple?
Because I like purple.
Oh,
I'm the one who
yes.
puts the PowerPoint together, therefore I have control of something in my life.
That's what was in my head. That's why I didn't
It's,
say.
It's not purple, that's
that is
lavender,
the
so it
perfect
could be a purple
identifier.
because it shows the black
So-
line.
document.
Yes.
My comment
That's not an ad
is
hoc
going to
statement.
be, why couldn't we allow you to make a decision like that? This seems like, as
Well-
we get bigger, and this is such a small thing that seems very,
We could, our code of ordinances right now requires all plats to come before you, even preliminary plats that aren't recorded with the county. However,
okay,
state law now allows you, if you wanted to, change the subdivision ordinance to have every plat, except I think single-family residential replats still have to be noticed.
I think as we move, keeps going in, it's just not charged, it's fine. So I'm just gonna push it out of the way.
Speak loud.
Yeah, so my question is, as we grow, we're gonna see things like this pop up here and there. Is this worth our time doing this? Or is this something that we can reorganize our processes and ordinances or whatever to allow Eric, who's qualified, to do something simple like this? This is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's all, well, almost every plat's a no-brainer, because by the time y'all see it, unless they have
Right.
conditions, or they're asking for a variance or DD, or a hardship exception.
Right,
Then those could still come, but any other plat's just a ministerial, and it's just a functionality of what the code of ordinances have always said, and what a lot of cities still do, but there are a lot of cities. I know a friend of mine in Rowlett, they just changed their code of ordinances where all plats just get approved as staff, because it has to meet the subdivision ordinance, or it doesn't.
exactly. So this
Based on
is
the
kind of,
zoning.
this is a waste of time, and I'm just saying, as we get bigger and things get, more agendas get
More
longer,
agenda, more
this is
busy with
taking up
zoning and
time that
land
we
use stuff
don't,
that matters,
right.
we would definitely appreciate not having to use that.
What do we need to do to make that happen?
We'll need to amend our code of ordinances, and these
Okay.
things do matter, they're required, they're just not something that the city council
The
needs
governing
to
body doesn't.
make a decision on. Yes,
We hired somebody who's a professional
yes.
and qualified and competent and credentialed. I would prefer that Eric be able to, and it would save him a lot of time too, because he has to submit all of this, prepare it for Deidre. I have to prove it to be on the agenda, we have to organize all that. It just seems like it would save a lot of time for everybody, for him to be able to just move forward with doing his job.
If he could just do his job and then give some kind of like really brief consolidated report.
An update, just kind of a general,
These things happened this week and here's what's new.
Right.
And don't use acronyms.
Right, and don't use that.
Don't use that.
FP.
Well, keep it purple so that we know who to blame.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we can amend the code of ordinances to give your, planning director authority to make these kinds of plat determinations.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
does require an amendment to the word code.
then, speak on that topic, are you guys okay with me just having Courtney work on that and then bring it back?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do that, will you make a note of that?
I'm adding it to my,
Thank
My
you.
list.
We're gonna give you some more responsibility, Eric.
Well,
More
I have the
trust.
responsibility, because like I say, I have to make sure it's in
Yeah,
order before it
responsibility,
comes to you.
let's say authority, more authority.
Oh,
You're-
man, I'm all about those,
higher
because Adam
level
has
of
too much authority
trust.
right now, and I'm tired of him all authority.
I'm gonna call you QC,
Like
qualified and credentialed.
He rolls
Yeah.
it every day, Eric, I have more authority, don't forget. I'm like,
If we do this, do we have?
He
to-
says that to you?
Do we have
Well,
to say
he-
less purple lines?
Not directly, but he
Probably.
insinuates it.
Because he
That's
doesn't
why
have to
Adam's
come to
gonna
you.
say it in the front.
That's true.
That's right.
Okay,
So
so
this
I'd like
is-
to do that.
Keep an eye on Eric.
You have a door, I think you have a door.
I do,
Yeah, but he has to walk past it to get to it.
you know,
That's true.
gotta walk through my brother and sister's bedroom to get to mine.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so that one that carries, we approved that. So let's go, item number 7, discuss, consider, and act upon final plat for Valley Church of Christ, Lot 1, 121 East College Street.
Yeah, so it's located on the exhibit above on College Street, an existing church property and site, some of it's developed right now. They have their main sanctuary that's in the middle there with the little star that's surrounded by parking, and then they have another structure there to the south that's kind of silver in this picture. But that's all their property is outlined in red.
All of that 10 acres here.
That's all theirs. It's all part of this plat. And the reason I have the plat is because it's never been platted before, and they're getting ready to do a church expansion. I'll show you in a second on
Okay.
development. This is the zoning. It's all zoned single-family residential right now, and that's one of the only C3 pockets we have right there to the left. This is the overall picture of the plat. I'll zoom in so you can see some stuff. In the red is the fire lane that's being platted based on the new development plans that we're going through. In the green, they have to do on-site detention. It's been reviewed by our city engineer and staff. This is their overall site plan, just in context, so you can see what they're doing as part of the plat. You see the fire lane in gray. I'm sorry, it's purple now. I don't know how that always happens.
And it's 24 foot?
Yes, it's a 24-foot fire lane with minimum 30-foot interior radiuses. The purple rectangle, horizontal rectangle, is the existing building that they're keeping. The sanctuary that I showed you on the aerial is going away and becoming all parking. You can see it's kind of generally located right where that spine road is, or that middle spine island is where the existing building is that they're gonna remove. And then they're adding the expansion to the left in that more red, purple, magenta color. That's their church addition, the front patio and parking and covered porch area towards the parking and fire lane. And then to the south is the area that will be their on-site detention. There are no other plans at this point in time for the rest of the development of the rest of their property. They'll probably do athletic fields or something like that. I don't know, we're really talking about any of that.
So Jenny didn't have any issues like with what any recommendations as far as the detention
No, the
pond?
detention pond is sized appropriately for what they have to do to on-site retain. And then I didn't put the landscape plan in here, but they do meet the ordinance. I had to put some landscaping around that one edge because it is adjacent to some other single family that isn't theirs. And then there's a full-blown landscaping plan that does the sidewalk and the landscaping along the public right-of-way along College Street. And then they have interior landscaping for the parking and stuff as well.
Will that be a concrete parking lot?
Absolutely, once you change the ordinance.
No.
Yeah, it's concrete, and so it has a little bit of, there's a little bit of grade change that you can't see on here, but there are some minor retaining walls. They originally had the detention pond up there in the upper left where it's kind of open area there, but it didn't size correctly, and it was starting to get too deep, so they shifted it to the south. And it got a little bit bigger, but it's a lot less shallow, and again, it's a retention pond, so it's gonna be dry except when it rains, and that's why they have those concrete ribbons in there to help the flow. Because once it rains, it will be retained, but then it will end up drying out eventually, like most of them. So they're not gonna make a water feature out of it or anything like that at this point in time. But that's the site plan, not the plat. But again, it's a final plat, they meet all the subdivision regulations. And so, staff recommends approval on city P&Z.
Questions, discussion?
I might suggest if somebody is making a motion that it would sound something like this, that you move to approve the final plat for Valley Church of Christ, Lot 1, Block A, totaling 10.616 acres, located at 121 East College Street, Gunter, Texas.
Kind of like exactly what the agenda
So are you
says.
saying
Yeah, I'll
we can't just say
second that.
so moved? It's
I'm
written,
saying it's better that if
but
you,
it's written.
Say
I know.
ditto.
I know,
I
lawyers.
I'll
was
second
just
that
saying
one.
so moved, but she's our attorney, so.
I move that we approve a final plat for the Valley Church of Christ, Lot 1, Block A, totaling 10.616 acres, located at 121 East College Street, Gunter, Texas.
All right, I have Cindy with a first.
I'll second.
Alan with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 3-0, that passes unanimously. I like so moves better. That makes me feel like I'm back in time 2 years ago, but that's okay. So, item number 8, discuss, consider, and act upon Senate Bill 2038 petition. We've got 3 of these, all in the same areas, but they were platted in 3 different places, so all 3 of these, are gonna be items for removal. Now, again, we don't act on these unless we wanted to approve them. We don't have a choice. The reason they're on the agenda is for public record, basically, so
This is the cricket bills?
No.
these, yes, this is,
Yeah.
Is it?
all 3 of them
Yes,
are.
it is.
So, item number 8, I'm just gonna read through them because we don't really have anything to act on. This is just for the record. So discussion, actually Senate Bill 2038 petition for release from the ETJ for 11.53 acres located at Pike Road in McConnell. Road and received from 9 Star Gunter Fields LLC on December 4th. Number 9 is to, another Senate Bill 2038 petition for release from the ETJ for 15.568 acres, same location, Pike Road at McConnell, received from 9 Star Premium Land on December 4th. And then we have item number 10, Senate Bill 2038 petition for release from the ETJ for 7 acres located at Pike and McConnell Road and received from 9 Star Land Development Company on December 6th. No action on those. Okay, so we are removing item number 11 for a later date. That is the school property. And then we're gonna move to item number 12, discuss, consider, and act upon an agreement with Bob Matthews to provide code enforcement services for the city. That contract was in there. I hope everybody had a chance to review it. If you guys have any questions, Adam, do you have anything to,
No, it's been a long time coming. We've been working on this for a
for a
while.
long time?
Yeah, it's been on our to-do list. I'll just say that, both on this item and the following item, staff, met as a group. We have Donna, teachers put Donna over the code enforcement as a point of contact. So staff got together, we all talked how we're gonna interact with code enforcement, animal control. Animal control will be more courts, Donna in the city, but all of us, are gonna interact with the code enforcement, so we talked about how that works, so we're just looking forward to having it. It's the same gentleman, it's his company, both over the animal control and the code enforcement. They're just different because they're incorporated, their ownership of them is different, but they're both
Okay.
his. And he represents, I would say, a good dozen municipalities, so he's been in this business, has worked for Gunter before, I believe, as well.
Yes.
And we did our due diligence on this issue.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we didn't wanna rush it, good reasons for that. So now we finally have a very, very good choice. And I think my list is longer than Santa's this year on code enforcement. But if anybody can think of anything that needs to be looked at in the city, send it to me. I will put that on the list too. I probably already have it, but there's a lot that needs cleaned up. We've gotta start working.
It came in
on it.
under
So,
budget.
Yes, I'm very
For
excited
both,
about
we were only
that.
looking for code enforcement, so
Yes,
we got both.
This is a
The
good
budget was
thing.
47,000, I forget what I put in there, it's under the staff report, what the total was.
And
So,
I'm trusting you guys did references to background checks and all that.
yeah, he's fully referenced, I mean, I talked to another city that uses him, so they're happy with him. And he's been around for a while, he's been doing this for over 12 years.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the ETJ release for just a second? We don't have to approve it, obviously we can.
but we can't deny it.
Well, it has to be done properly, and I'm not certain that this meets all the codes. Did you go through this, Courtney, to make sure this meets all the statutory requirements?
Yes.
I've never seen one like this, and it's a bit of a mess.
So,
I don't have my
Was
code
this
book
in the
front of me
stack
to go
that
through it, but
you and I looked at earlier.
It was, and this is the one I went by, the TML checklist,
oh, you
and
did.
it
Okay,
checked
it
everything.
out,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
the only
It
reason
does
why.
look
it's
very
in here.
different.
If it
Yeah.
doesn't meet my checklist, I send them a letter, certified,
Right. And we've had to do that many times.
and I have. And then
Yes.
within a week or so, they apply.
Certainly brings up our conversation of ILAs. Being a, it's a
It
commercial
does, and that's a
property.
conversation I've had quite a few recently.
It's not just a house.
And Mayor, if I could also, we get a lot of questions and comments from people asking about the cricket fields. And we have originally told them it's in the ETJ, but there are certain things that we might try to pursue with them. Well,
Because
now
of
we
our
know why they
subdivision
haven't ever gotten back with me, because they're trying to get out of the ETJ and now they are.
Now we do not have it.
So I just
yeah.
want everybody to understand that, you know, it will impact some of the thoroughfare out there.
Right.
And some of the things that they're proposing to do that we've seen a concept site plan, but we don't have any jurisdictional authority over it.
We do not,
Reach out and get you Josh's phone number.
we don't, it's in the county.
Other than
And now it's
maybe
out
if
of our
they
ETJ.
continue to do construction activities that are disturbing to others when they were breaking up a lot of rock and stuff that they were encountering when they were doing the detention pond or for their
Right.
irrigation. Maybe there's something we can do with that, but. Other than that, we
Yeah,
just have to
I mean,
rely on
our
the county
hands
to
are tied.
do their
This is not-
perspective.
It's
City
not
is
something
right
we have any
across the street.
authority over.
Yeah, the city is
It's
right
something
across the
we can
street.
do.
We also don't have any duty either, so.
And we don't have a duty, but yeah. So, that's true.
That's clear for them.
Okay, can we
So since no one else is making motions tonight,
return to our, code enforcement?
I move that we, approve the agreement with Bond Avenue to provide code enforcement services for the city.
All right, I have Cindy
I
with first.
overwhelmingly second that one.
Yep, I know you're very excited about it.
That was an excellent.
Alan with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. We'll move on to the second part of that really is the, animal control. Discuss, consider, and act upon the agreement with All American Dogs to provide animal control services for the city.
And hell yes, I make a motion to approve the agreement with All American Dogs to provide animal control services to the city. Which are badly needed.
No, it's all sprinkled
I'm
out.
gonna have to second this one, I've got two dogs.
Okay, so Cindy with the first,
I'll second Cindy's motion.
Thank you.
William with a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That's 3-0 unanimous, that passes. We're gonna move on to number 14, discuss, consider, and act upon an ILA with Grayson County to perform emergency guardrail repairs on a bridge located Bounds Road within the city limits of Gunter. Adam, would you like to summarize this?
Sure,
real
summarize
quick?
it's already been done.
It was an
We
emergency.
talked
It was,
about
it was emergency repair, it's 3186, I put the cost sheet behind it, but that was the other repair that the drunk driver drove through the guardrail, had to be fixed, and so we were happy that the county responded quickly.
I think we talked about this though.
We
the
did, we
last-
talked about it,
Okay.
I just said it was coming,
And,
because we had to pay it sort of post,
right,
it's sort of a retroactive payment.
It was
Yeah.
a distracted driver.
Distracted, okay, got some Budweiser, I don't.
Yes. it
So
was a
really, we
distracted
need to
driver.
approve the 3,000.
no, I know exactly what happened with that one.
I know,
That
I
one,
should say,
It was a distracted.
our PD took to jail,
So the
So-
repairs have been done, we just need to approve the money.
yes,
yes.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of $3,186 to the county of Grayson for the repairs that have already been done.
I second.
All right, William with the first, Cindy with the second, all in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous and that carries. We're gonna move to 15. General discussion of Gunter City Ordinance, Chapter 5, use of land in buildings. So we have so much conflict within our ordinances and codes and zonings and permits and schedules and charts and old stuff that's inbound within developments of this is what they have the right to do and this is where we are now. And there's lots of confusion, so. I wanted to have this conversation. Obviously, this is something that is related to zoning and land use, which will ultimately go to P and Z. I'm sure someone's gonna to say that, well, it should have gone there first. It doesn't have to. P and Z is an advisory board, a commission, so I just wanna say that they help us make decisions. They help do some of the research, the due diligence, and give us a, after discussion, give us a recommendation. It does not mean we have to send things there first. Some things do have to go there, but not everything. So I wanna make that clear because I do get, some messages to do it the other way sometimes. So I just wanna, this is general discussion, we're not changing anything tonight, but we need to know kind of where we are so that they understand where we are if they listen to these meetings. And then when they're discussing, they come back and they say, well, this is what they were thinking. What do y'all think about this? All of us have a chance to communicate on this before they give us a specific recommendation on any one thing. So we're just looking at the chapter. and general discussion. So Eric, I would like for you to kinda, I guess just open up, or even Courtney can kinda explain some of the weird stuff that we have to kinda fix. We have to talk about, well, our specific use permits, and just general land use that so much is not covered and some is very flexible, sorta. Like you could push it if you wanted to. I don't wanna do that. I want this cleaned up.
You go.
Well, I would say, we have talked before about our permanent land use table and the different land uses that exist that are on it, some that we probably don't need anymore because the market, they just really don't exist, or they're redundant to the definitions in the, code of ordinances and the zoning. There are some that, might bode well to be more of a temporary use permit that we don't have. Many code of ordinances have permanent land use table charts that have specific use permit, permitted by right, not permitted, or permitted with a temporary use permit, and then there's specific criteria established for those different types of land uses that might fall under a temporary use permit. And sometimes temporary use permits can be approved at the staff level because there are specific conditions that are established in the orders for that particular land use that's referenced in the permitted land use table. Otherwise, some of the, most of the definitions are kind of okay, but there's other areas of the ordinance where it kind of speaks to it the same, but the cover that we have right now for it, while we try to get everything cleaned up, is whenever there's a conflict in the ordinances, the most restrictive applies. So with land uses, it's kind of hard to really determine. Some people want to know, like, we have could be a smoke shop, or, just any kind of other kind of land uses out there that you may not want. We don't really have a good definition for it or whatever. And if it's a permitted land use table, do you want it still to remain in certain zoning classifications or not? So, usually I can keep talking, but I really don't know where else to go.
No, I mean, it's just general discussion. I wanted to have this on the agenda to open it up because that's the chapter we need to start doing some cleanup on. And like, if you guys had specifics or you have questions, what can be done, what can't be done, what you want done, what you don't want done, that we need to give Eric some direction so that he can work with me and Courtney to kind of, so that we have a direction that we know where we're going with it. Temporary uses, we don't have it all. And I think we need to define temporary. What's temporary? For example, some of the things in Salina, they had to go back and figure out ordinances because they're like, oh, wait a minute, we thought temporary was temporary, and you're telling me this project's 4 years. To me, that's not temporary.
Well, and that's what I always tell people too, Mayor, when they go, well, we just want to temporarily do this building, or we want to temporary is kind of, from planning terminology, it's very broad. It's temporary to me.
Yeah.
It's different from someone else, because I'm a land planner, so I've planned stuff that I've only seen stuff that I planned 25 years ago coming out of the ground now. But people say, oh, it's just temporary, we'll do it.
No, it's not temporary.
So you can define temporary, but I think it's a word that is kind of overused. But if you have it on the permitted land use table, you can kind of establish what temporary means. If that's 3 months, 6 months,
Right.
or they can come before P&Z and City Council for that portion of the term. If they say we need, our temporary to us is a year. Well, the ordinance says 6, but you can go to council and ask them if they agree that's
For variance.
a year for a deviation or variance to it is a year. And then by ordinance, they'll be tied down to it. So if they do exceed that, or, many times we have things where you get 90 days and you can have one extension by staff, and then beyond that, you have to come back to the governing body to get a longer time.
Bad idea.
Right, and then what's that extension? Is it's not another, like a duplicate the 90 days? Like, is it just another 30 days?
Yeah,
Or
it could be
like,
another 30
how do
days.
we want that to look with temporary uses?
Well, and each temporary use is probably gonna be
It's a
somewhat
little bit
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is a temporary use for, and I'm not saying, like a farmer's market, that there's a season, it lasts this amount of time, well, that's different than a temporary use for construction for something, so
Right.
each one would need to be tailored for that specific use.
Right, and temporary use for construction would be the duration of the construction. it's not 6 months, but it's defined by the duration of the construction, whatever that is.
Right.
So,
Well, and probably different parts and pieces,
right,
so that, you know, I mean, I hate to say the dirty word,
The
but,
word, yeah.
you know, temporary concrete batch plants. Well, if it's just putting in a road, that's in and out as opposed to,
right, that's what I'm saying, it's
yeah,
duration of-
utilities
duration
and
of
things like
use,
that.
And it doesn't have a
Right.
specific time attached to it, it's just beginning of project to end of project. So, well, Eric, can you put a list of things together that says, here's the stuff that we are flagged for
anticipating as to
problems, and here's the ones we need to clean up, here's the ones we think Courtney ought to be tackling to get, write new drafts, and
We can, and we've discussed some of those temporary uses, in the permitted land use table, and some of the ones, you know, like, that aren't really clear on orders right now, like event parking lots or festivals,
Right.
outdoor concerts, transient amusement,
what's a transient amusement?
like, those carnivals that.
Carnivals.
Park, yeah, carnival thing, yeah.
Hands, ship the eyes.
And then, of course, the
The circus.
some of the
The
uses that fall under more of the manufacturing, storage, or warehouse uses for construction.
Right.
Obviously is a hot issue with us right now, because we're experiencing a lot, you know, more growth all the time, that, some of these construction activities that are being utilized more now to facilitate expediting construction and finishing subdivisions is the purpose for why they're wanting to do it.
Well,
Right.
so, other than temporary use permits, I think we have some other,
We could go completely through the permitted land use table, and it's a big old can of worms, so.
It
you might-
is.
And
It's
that
gotta be cleaned up. It
That
has
would
to
be
cleaned
my
up.
advice, is to start going through your land use table, see what, like, for example, we have the word concrete
Right.
in there. Well, that concrete can mean a lot of different things. So removing that word and then defining what specifically it is. And I would probably tackle it by section. You know, everybody gets a homework assignment, or we're gonna start with, you know, maybe manufacturing, tables 5, 6, and, 5 and 6, let's start there. And then let's go work our way back up. Your single family uses, those, you're probably gonna make the fewest changes there, leave that one for last. That
Right.
would be how I would start working on section 25, but besides section 25, we probably need to look at the rest of the zoning ordinance as well, but 25 is definitely a place to start.
It is, it is.
Because it's the most land use specific, heavy, intensive. Because Adam and I have been talking about the landscape ordinance that could really get us in a kind of a quandary. If we had more developments that didn't already come through with developer agreements, where we kind of massage it and utilize that. If it was just a
Yeah.
straight R1 or SF1 or SF2 came in, I mean, 2 trees, 30-foot canopy trees on a 40-foot wide lot makes 0 sense,
Right.
for example.
There's so much, and I don't wanna be behind this growth and have to keep coming back with, well, we can do it this way, but no, over here it says that, and over here it says that, and then we keep changing it.
Well, and the other thing is, once a developer files a permit, they have a vested right in what your
In
code
what it is
is.
there.
So we
Yeah.
need to get the code right as soon as we possibly can.
I agree.
And understand, of course, it is a living document, so it's not gonna be
Yes.
perfect ever, and we're still gonna come back and wanna change things, or people are gonna ask some
no,
exceptions to it, 'cause you
But
just
right
can't.
now, it's just it's a mess.
right, but we can put a team together, start working on this, and just tackle, start in shot 25, get that one cleaned up, and then go back and just work our way through,
Right.
like, we
Right.
can meet once a week, work for an hour or two, whatever we can do, and just work through it.
Yeah, what we can do is I can have, you know, Bethany's getting a lot more heavy into the planning with me, and she's excited to be able to start on this. We can get the matrix converted into a, permitted land use table, converted into an Excel file, so that way you can track your changes and everybody can see what we added, what we subtracted, what switched from permitted to maybe a specific use permit, or, you know, whatever. Or temporary use permit being added, so, and then, I've been working on one of these before I started working for Gunter, and it was like a 1.5 year process, cause very little worse if you let it be, but you can also get through them quicker. But there's a couple websites that my planning organization has that has very good definitions, I think. So if we come up with a new land use, or we don't like the definition that we currently have that's attached to the permitted land use, change it.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
gotta be
For instance,
plain language, like,
Well, okay, I can't say this, because the way I read plain language in planning, because I've been doing it for 30 years, is a little bit different than someone that just has to, a developer has to interpret it. Although we are the ones that get to interpret it, right?
right.
I think there's issues like, what is a convenience store? Where you go in there right now, you know what most convenience stores are. Very seldom are they only 2,300 square feet and 6 pumps.
Right.
If you classify, by definition. So those are the types of things that we need to look at as we're doing the rental land use table. The definitions of those land uses tie directly to that. Because someone's asked, like Courtney said, concrete. We don't even have a definition for concrete.
Right.
So you can, what I would do if I had to do it, press, I would go to the standard industrial classification codes and say, what does concrete say? Or what does that land use in the SIC code say? Because that's old school way how I used to determine land uses, because that's international, or that's national. And that's how building officials look at some things and categorize land uses or occupancies and things like that.
So what do you need to start this project to revamp everything?
So my question may help with that, before you answer. So my question, what I was thinking of doing, because this is, it's intense, like it's a lot. It's gonna be a project that is very, laborious. So I would like for Eric to lead this because you are a development guy. But I'm wondering, should we put 2 council, maybe 2 EDC to have some input, and 2 planning and zoning commissioners, all in like with a changeable document where everybody can add notes. We're not violating the Open Meetings Act, but where they're working on this outside of us at a meeting. Cause I mean, I'd love to do workshops and we want that feedback from everybody, but I don't see everybody being able to make a lot of workshops over and over and over. So I'd
Well-
like it's hard to get it all done in just, like an hour or so.
Put it down as
So,
And also, with this type of thing that I've learned, doing several of them, is to get consensus with 15 people. As you're
So
going through
hard.
it, people going, what's that stand for? I really don't do that stand for that, or what
Right.
changes? So if you get what we call a steering committee for it, that you're talking about
which
putting
would be,
together, they steer it,
pulling,
they make their suggestions, we edit it, then occasionally we'll bring it, get feedback and say, okay, we're going in the right direction with this, and then you can spend an hour kind of parsing through it, but not go down the rabbit hole of, like I just experienced, debating on what a urban farm, ranch, and orchard is, and spent about 20 hours, and then they went back to the original definition I gave them after about 4 months, but.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
Eric's point, the smaller group will get more done.
right.
If you wanna bring it back to a larger group quarterly or something.
That's why I said, I
don't
don't wanna do this
want
weekly.
a large 10
No.
people on a group
Mm.
every week and you will get nothing done and nothing will be accomplished.
Right, right,
I mean, if it was me, Eric, and Courtney, we get a lot done.
that's true.
And then we can bring it in quarterly and do something.
Volunteered.
Did you just volunteer?
So are you,
Always giving an example.
Well, he's still in public sector, so he's not
You
being a
said
one
it.
time on his hands.
Yeah.
you said it, it's yours. So, are you thinking like maybe 1 person for the other boards, or 2, or what?
Well.
I'd love for you guys to be able to
I
look at
think
that
to be
document and
effective-
make your notes.
To be effective, we pull people in from boards when we need them, and then we do
Okay.
like a quarterly presentation or a monthly presentation, but no
Okay.
more often than that, because otherwise
I
you spend
agree,
all your
yeah.
time,
It's too
you
much,
spend all your time committeeing and you don't get any
Right.
work done.
right,
Well, and that's what I was gonna say is if you want it to be the 3 of us, that's great.
okay,
Let us get a document put together and then take it to planning and zoning to take a look at and say, okay, city council is tasked, we're starting this process, they want you to take the first pass at reviewing
Right.
this. They take a first pass at it, take a look, then they've gotta hold a public hearing. Before it ever starts, before we can pass it, it's gotta go through the public hearing process. So, and I, going through with each chapter, doing that ordinance, getting that implemented, and then starting the next.
right, right.
And that will help, because once you get a little bit of momentum, you don't want it to sit around for another 2 months, but there are times when workload's gonna dictate that this has to take a second seat.
100%, yeah.
I just want everybody to understand that, because I get a lot of pressure from that sometimes. I really desire working 70 hours to get from it and get it done.
You don't?
No, I'm not an attorney, I don't work as hard as
Baby.
I'm a
It's
planner.
another job.
Baby.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so could Are we all good then with, Eric, Courtney, and William? Are we good with that? I'm good with that.
Sure.
I just want them to.
Are you okay with that, William?
Yes,
Seriously?
I'm great with that.
Okay, can we start with that, and then the three of you get together and start working on this, and then let us know when you need feedback?
Mayor,
He's gonna start scratching those houses.
Yep.
No, we're not starting on the residential.
No, I know.
Yeah, I
He
can,
will work
absolutely.
there.
So, okay, so it is agenda item. If you would like to hop up and speak, you can, Jeannie.
you guys, this is all woman.
I know.
Make
Get
it
the
me.
exercise in.
Adam, she praised you, take the microphone over to her.
That's right.
Again, 99%.
Able-bodied,
What is-
able-bodied
I'm
Adam
enjoying
can't
this
carry the microphone
conversation
over to the old
because
lady.
I know.
Approximately 6-8 months ago, Eric, in my discussions with Eric, I asked him what I could do to help, and he told me zoning. And I have been working on zoning since then, just to let you guys know, and I have a lot of data that I have compiled,
So we have a fourth member, Mayor.
so,
Okay, no, that's fine with me, yeah.
so, that's my.
Well, no, wait. Sing my praises or you're not gonna get nominated.
Wow!
Did I have to say that out loud? I mean, really?
Wow, where was I on that?
That was
I believe
painful.
I didn't say it first.
Gosh.
Well, he already gave you that earlier.
Jeannie, just tell him he's
Okay.
amazing.
Excuse me, I have to praise Eric too.
Yeah,
Eric has been a jewel, so.
a jewel.
A tool?
A tool.
Yeah, she said tool.
She said jewel.
She said tool.
He said tool.
A multi-purpose tool.
He in turn
Yeah.
carries very many hats, and I'm sure that we have done great by having him as part of our group, our committee. Thank you, Eric. But I do have a lot of data.
Yeah, well, and I know that you guys have already met a couple times too.
Yes.
On that, so yeah, that's,
If I can be included in that, so I can,
you're part of the group, Jeannie.
thank you.
All right, so that was item number 15. Anything else you guys need to,
Yes. I have
anything
something.
before we wrap it up on this one?
Oh, on this one? No, but I have something after this.
Okay. So, after this.
Well, I just wanna clarify something we talked about earlier.
Oh, well then I think we're done here, right? And there's no action to take, it's just, we're kind of just talking about what we're gonna do moving forward, so.
So I got,
Go ahead.
I got notice while we're here that I wanted to clarify that the properties that pulled themselves from the ETJ tonight were not part of the Rich property.
Really?
Oh, okay.
They're at McConnell, which is
McConnell and
somewhere
Pike.
else.
Oh,
Yeah,
Connell and Pike.
yeah. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Harple.
Okay. All right,
So who are they?
Which side of McConnell?
it's the 9
Are they northeast, southeast?
Where are they?
Star Premium Land.
Where are they? They're,
They are
Said-
south of McConnell,
Okay, west of Pike?
so they're,
yes,
I
on the
think
east
it's on
side
the
of
back
Pike,
side
actually.
of Zach McConnell's property.
It is, because
Okay.
we walked
I got
across
it.
his property to go look at what they were doing, digging the big, huge flipping hole in the ground.
Mhm.
And he came out finally, without a shotgun unfortunately, since we were trespassing.
We're just
You're trespassing just on the property, that's great.
It was just ironic.
Well, we
that it
knocked on
was
the door and no one
38
came,
plus
so.
acres, which
So
is
you
what-
just helped yourself.
Well, I mean, we're country folk, we know how it works.
That's right.
Started here clicking,
Okay.
you got me.
So nobody knows who Night Star Gunter Land Management is?
They do,
They do.
they have a face.
We don't know what they're planning to use the land for, nor can we ask them. It's not our business, because it's not our city land. So,
They were really nice in the opinion. They said they've not made a decision yet of what they're gonna do with the property. But they said that, they're not saying that in the future with whatever they do decide that they will not, the discussion could come back to annex themselves, into the city limits.
And when
And
emergency
then they would
services,
talk
that's
to
what
the
they call
city and do something that's,
No.
favorable for us all.
What is the purpose of
is
getting
this,
out?
is property that you did reach out to? Cause I thought it was the
The cricket field
engineer
was-
on the other,
The cricket fields were the one that I reached out to.
with the engineer
Yes,
originally.
Well, yeah, with
Okay,
Keith at KFM, who had
yes,
done some original concept plans for him, but he's not working on this project for him.
right, and
They
he
did
didn't know
more of a
anything about
design
it.
build, so then the contractor that was at the earthwork contractor or the contractor got with me and contacted me and let me know what they were doing and whatnot, and then he gave me the names of the owners that he's working for, who he reached out to, and they were non-responsive.
I also need to clarify that it's not just cricket fields, it's an athletic complex.
Well, the site plans that I saw were all cricket fields and a batting cage that I assume might be for cricket batting.
We're going off topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to, council business executive session, number 16, we're gonna meet under 551071, consultation with our city attorney on two things, BNSF litigation and employee department reviews at 7:51.
Adam, is up for a review?
Yes.
Alright, you can turn it off.
That's why Deanie gave you a thumbs up.
Yes.
Mayor, would you mind that we just go ahead and turn this off